Wholeness, welcome. This is Josh Vinderskild, and today, graced by the presence of Kathryn Remati. Kathryn, how's it going today?
We are having a lovely day. I've been so excited to meet you. And we're both LA people. Well, you used to be. You used to
No,
live around the corner from me,
no,
didn't you?
no, and not that I know of. I'm a Missouri native and
You
been
never lived in
overseas for a
LA?
while. Actually, I've only been to San Diego too, in La Jolla and Carlsbad. As far as that, no, and I have been. I take that back. I have been to the Bay Area for a retreat once, but I've never been to the City of Angels.
Oh,
But I followed quite some big time spiritual teachers from there too, though. So who knows? Maybe in a past life or something.
well, we're both solo travelers.
Yeah, that
We
we
did
can
a
say
lot
for
of
sure.
traveling, and I think we could talk a lot about our travels too.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. So who's Catherine? What kind of work does she do?
Well, I am a guided meditation teacher, basically. I love guided meditations. I write them and produce them, and they're on over 100 digital radio stations around the world. I have my own app as well called Tranquil Me, meditation app I've had a long time, about 10 years. I don't have a budget to promote it. I don't have multi-million dollar capital venture people because it's not subscribed. It's just $4.99 forever because I don't think inner peace should be expensive. And my mission is to spread peace through the world, one peaceful person at a time. And I truly do believe peace does begin with us. And it's palpable peace. When someone can guide you to that inner peace, it's easy. It's fun. Well, it doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to be locked up in a monastery if you don't want to. So I used to teach at Kaiser Permanente as a health educator in the evenings, teaching just normal people that the doctors sent to my classes because of certain imbalances. So I taught insomnia classes, and I taught mindfulness based stress reduction, junk in. I did healthy weight, medical weight management for obese people who had to lose weight for operations. And so I found doing all these different classes, there was one common denominator, and that was a lack of self love. Because when you love something, you take care of it. It's not a chore. You unconditionally love your children, your plants, a baby. It's easy. But when it comes to yourself, why are we always the last ones to be taken care of? So I wanted to reach these people who didn't understand meditation. They had all these myths and misconceptions, and I'd go around the room. I'd have like 20 people in a conference room at night after work. And, they weren't happy people. The medical weight people were on diets. They were hangry. But I say, what do you, when you think of meditation, what pops into your head? And I'd get everything from peace, calms, and then I'd get cult, religion, doctrine, and all this stuff. Kooky, hippie. And I realized there was someone that needed to get out there and talk to beginners, and make them realize it's like brushing your teeth. It's a social contract of don't go out into the world without a shower and washing your hair and brushing your teeth. Don't go out in the world with your brain scattered full of crap either. Have a mental cleanse before you go out in the world. So my goal is to make meditation just mainstream. They say it's mainstream now because people know the name, but it's not really until it's a daily habit. And it can be as simple as starting out with 2 minutes. And so I usually start with telling people, you're not going to empty your mind, because they all go, oh, I can't meditate. And you've heard it. So you don't, so my thing is, so you don't think you can meditate. talk to me. And I'll find out that, it's a monkey mind. They can't shut it down. And I'm like, quite frankly, you don't shut it down. If you shut down your mind, you're going to be dead. You're going to be in the cemetery, because that's what the mind does. That's its function. But we don't have to believe everything we think. So it's our choice.
Or identify with it either, right? Yeah, we're so much more than that, and our emotions too. Well, this is great. Yeah, couldn't agree more with just about everything you said. The brushing the teeth, say energetic hygiene, like you could go a day without brushing your teeth, but you wouldn't want to. So it's just a matter of a habit again. And to reiterate your point about beginners saying, oh, I can't meditate, my mind's too chaotic, or, it's the one thing that I start that type of person with when I used to be doing this more is you can't fail at this. So we're so kind of conditioned that I have to succeed or fail at something. I'm
Right.
doing it right or I'm not doing it right. I think when you first start off, at least, you can't do anything wrong, whatever happens, for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, unless something severe comes up. And that's a nice thing too. You can just open your eyes and walk away. There's no really danger as long as, there's no forcing one to do it against one's will or anything like that. Yeah. And all the cliches you mentioned, it's really interesting how strong certain perceptions can be that can deter people from great tools to well-being.
Yeah.
I couldn't even really imagine uh, going without meditation in my life now. It's completely turned my life around 180. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So how did you get into, you've been meditating since a really young age, right? How did you first discover meditation?
Oh my gosh, it really saved my life. At the age of 16, I was on the probation list, about to get kicked out of high school. Truly, I was skipping classes. I was getting high. I hated the sound of the bell every time it was a high school new class. Oh, I just didn't wanna be there, and, I was depressed. I was basically had a traumatic childhood, there was no one at home. It was a middle-class family. From the outside, people think, "Oh, it's a nice house, everything's fine," but there's a lot of secrets behind those doors, and a lot of people are suffering, and I was one of those. I had an abusive, family. No one asked me if you had homework at the end of the day. No one gave a shit. And I was pretty depressed. So I was fooling around, and I was about to, who knows what would have happened to me, when I was outside one night, and I was into spiritual books. Since I was about 13, somehow I would find spiritual bookstores, and I used to read Life After Life and all the early books, like, maybe Wayne Dyer's first book, that sort of thing. And I even got A Course in Miracles, and I didn't even understand a word of it when I was a teenager. But of course now I'm a Course in Miracles girl. But back then I didn't see a way out. And I did this course. I found out about it through a newspaper article. I was out on the curb taking out the garbage one night, and this article flew, a newspaper, and it was about a mind development course, introductory lecture. And I said, I have to go. I have to go. This is the one. I want to learn about the mind and the brain. This is for me. It was a spiritual calling. And for some reason, I was able to go to it. And it was in a conference room with a psychologist. It was the opposite of what you'd think. But he was my first guru. He was fully enlightened human being. He had these big blue eyes that just looked through your soul. And when he walked in, there was an aura, a presence, and he really walked the walk and did the work. And so it changed my life. We spent a lot of time in that conference room with our eyes closed. And we learned a lot of mental techniques for accessing memory banks and things like that. And I experienced true, palpable peace flowing through my cells of my body. It healed me physically too, because when I went to there, I had this horrible nervous rash. from probably the drugs and the nerves. And no matter what I put on it, it got worse and worse. But after the first weekend, it was gone. And it was just my nervous system regulating so my body could do what it does. It heals. So it's a very healing practice when you get out of the way and let the body do what it's supposed to do. So I learned a lot about stress, getting rid of stress, and getting to know myself. And I felt real self-love. Love that I wasn't getting at home. And that changed me. So I ended up jogging at the beach every morning before school, got new friends, became a vegetarian, did yoga, and all of a sudden my grades went through the roof. And when I sat down for my SATs, I could reproduce a whole essay on Hamlet, word for word, and I ended up going to college. I got good enough grades. I got a BA in psychology. I wanted to learn more about the brain and mind. So of course I did psychology. And if this is back, I'm old, this is back in the 70s. I was a real fringe kind of kooky person because I didn't eat meat. And people are like, why don't you eat meat? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you while you're eating that steak. You enjoy your steak. I'll tell you later, but I was kooky, and I used to teach people meditation in my dorm room because I was so passionate about it. And then life started, but eventually I decided, after having a couple of kids and a long life of travel, ridiculous travel, because this is all happened in Australia. Was when I was 12 years old, we moved to Australia. So this course was with Australian psychologists. I was only 16. But I spent 30 years growing up in Australia, married, had kids there. So when I moved to Boston for my husband's job, I started getting back into it and writing my own meditations and recording them. And my people loved my voice. And that's a big thing for me because I remember I have a long story in my book about how much I hated my voice. And so that was a huge piece of work to get over that and to put my voice out into the planet for people to listen to. That just goes to show the work I've done in terms of the self-love, to be able to accept and love my own voice, because I hate it. And a lot of people hate their voice. Remember answering machines? People go, ew, I hate my voice. It was like nails on a chalkboard for me.
Well, I think that's really common for people to hear that back. And then the more we put energy into that judging and perception, the bigger it grows, right? So, I think since you mentioned this, we've blown it for the Insight Timer version, I think, because you mentioned your book, your app already. But so I'm dying to know who this guy in Australia, and you mentioned Wayne Dyer too. So flag, flag, flag. But anyway, so tell me who was it in Australia, and also did you study with anybody before we get into the self-love? Because that's been a huge part of my path too. Matt Kahn's book, Whatever Arises, love that. He was really big into so it helped me so much too, and we'll get into that. That's the kind of the meat and potatoes here, so to speak.
I think
No stakes involved, but
a lot of spiritual teachers, past and present, it comes down to self-love. Because think about it, it's a Buddhist concept. Buddha was the first one to really explore self-compassion. He was the first one to really talk about it and make it important. Because he said, no one in the entire universe deserves your loving kindness more than you. You need your own kindness. So with loving kindness meditation, in the East, they always begin with yourself. But when we teach it in the West, we can't do that because people hate themselves. So we had to work down to doing us. I always begin with someone you love to get the love feeling going. But yeah, self-love is the primary, pillar of my work and my book, which I'm going to talk about. I have it right here. Befriend Yourself is the self-love path. to peace. And I think world peace will come from people loving themselves. And like you said about the judgment, we judge ourselves so harshly. And if we do that, guess what? We're doing it to others. And this world is all about us and them now, making everyone an over there other that you can't relate to. And I'm trying to break down those barriers because we all have one thing in common. It's probably self-loathing, but it could be self-loving.
It's beautifully put. It reminds me of that story towards Ram Dass, towards the end of his life. He had a picture of the orange-haired man on his altar. Yeah. And isn't
Yes.
it interesting how, another thing you said about, you think we have any kind of spiritual you know, acuity or something, go spend some time with your family. So how many of us have love-hate relationships with our family? You come from it doesn't really apply in the same traditional way for you, because you mentioned trauma. And I also want to ask you about trauma, and do you work with people with that? And it's really refreshing to that you've chosen beginners too, because I feel you have a deep knowledge and deep heart practice as well. Because the love, this is not the love we're talking about where I love ice cream, right? That's not what we're talking about. You mentioned very specifically, and I applaud that, loving kindness. So this is a unstoppable friendliness, right? A well-wishing, a goodwill
Yeah.
towards not just someone you love, which is the greatest place to start. I agree, especially in the West, right? Towards ourselves, towards neutral people,
Yeah.
towards those we never really have any interaction. We might see them on the street, or they might, give us a coffee or something. And then it's even possible to do this practice towards our quote unquote enemies, or those challenging people, or maybe we're their challenging people, and then for all beings everywhere. So it's such a beautiful practice. And when that meets challenge in life, right, then it's a compassion practice. When it meets or suffering or stress, and then when it meets happiness, we can rejoice for others people's happiness. And so our chances for happiness increase if we can meet that goodwill and kindness for the success of others. This is the tough one, I feel, for me, instead of being jealous or, envious. And then this notion of equanimity, equipoise, how the kind of grandparently love that says, hey, I would love to do everything for you, but you have to make your own choices in life. I can't make all your choices in life for you. I can be there, be supportive and even keel and balanced from a
Mm.
heart's not an indifferent place, but a really balanced and caring place. So yeah, these flavors of love are really monumental, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So mhm.
when you mentioned the envy and the jealousy, which is a sign of a lack of self-love, because when you compare yourself to others, that's a sign
It's a
that
conceit. It's a
you
conceit.
need more self-love. Because when you truly love yourself, you only want the best for yourself, and you only want the best for everyone else, and you want to celebrate their success.
It's
And
it, it
that's
it's beautiful, it's and then I love this notion of befriending yourself. It's really powerful other flavor to all this too, because at least when I first started this, these I love yous, that was Matt Kahn's saying I love you to your own heart. It just felt
yeah.
so sappy and syrupy, and it didn't, but actually being honest like that is a form of self-love too. Not lying to myself about how it is, right?
Yeah.
Actually, that's another huge self practice, I feel. But I could immediately connect with befriending, this notion of, would you treat yourself like you treat a friend? That was a real eye opener in a ways, right? We wouldn't treat our friends like some of
Right,
us treat ourselves, right? And the
right.
things we struggle with, why can't, if we're having an uncontrollable mind or whatever, why can't we befriend that? And
Mhm.
have compassion even when we can't have compassion for the fact that we can't have compassion right now.
Yeah, like you would if a friend was struggling with anything. anything at all, like weight loss or something. And then they were trying to have a jogging routine every day. And then one day they fell asleep on the couch, didn't do it. And then they called themselves a big fat lazy pig. And I'm a waste case and I'm such a loser. And you would be on the phone going, no, you're not. You actually listened to your body. You were tired. You did already 5 days and you needed to rest, and you let your body have that rest, and you didn't force it and hurt it with more coffee and making it do it. You let yourself have a rest. That's what you needed. And that's loving yourself, and be happy about, celebrate your wins. You got 5 right out of 7 days. So that's the cheerleader motivating voice you would do with a friend. And that's if we could switch that voice in our head that call ourselves names, because we could be so mean. We could be our own worst enemy. It's awful, the things we say to ourselves. And I think that's the number one step to self-love. Notice that voice. If you could change that voice and give yourself a term of endearment, I tell people, like you would someone else, like, oh, you're a sweetie or dear or something, a nickname. It
Yeah,
helps.
it's a really good, a dear one, Yeah, it really does. Like you would speak to an intimate one. And yeah, it's such a great notion. This what can, and it speaks to, well, why are we like that? And I think, I meet so many gals on here and talk, the ones, it seems like there's a notion of I'm not worthy, right? For the feminine, it seems to be value and validation. And for the
Yeah,
guys, traditionally speaking here, of course, everybody has both parts of this to some degree,
yeah,
is honor and respect, right? But
yeah,
so I think a lot of this, and not that negative self-talk or whatever, being down on ourselves. Of course, we learn it from like our society and conditioning. But I think another one is self-worth. Like some people don't feel they're worthy of befriending themselves, right? They think, oh, I don't deserve that. I need more
right.
like strict discipline or something like that.
Absolutely.
So that, I think that's, do you see anything else around this, or what would you say
Oh,
around
it's
this?
so true about the unworthiness. And I think a lot of it is, first of all, your family. They tell you things, don't do this, don't do that. We can't afford this. And so you think, I'm not worth the new bike I want for Christmas because, they don't have enough money for me. And money also creates a lot of drama, in the household. So we also end up with these money blocks as well, which is crazy. But so we start out with those unworthy messages. Then we get this cultural bombardment with women having to look a certain way, be a certain size, wear certain clothes, blah, blah, blah. And then the men have pressure of their own from society to be providers, which to me is even harder pressure. So they have they have a lot of pressure, men too. So when I run these retreats, and they're 50% men, 50% women, because I really feel for men, and we've all suffered trauma. You asked me about trauma and do I teach it? Well, I am not a trained trauma therapist, but I have found everybody's gone through trauma, and self-love applies to everybody.
That's a great way to put it. And it's very safe to do that, no matter what level of trauma we have. I tell people, even taking a human birth in some regards is traumatic. And
Right.
we're not going to get through this life without some kind of pain. It's just not
Yeah.
possible being a human, and it can get really, really severe too. But this notion of self-love, it is just like mindfulness. It is a self-soothing, and not a sappy one either. I mean, it's beneficial for ourselves and for others, and especially in the long run. So there's really nothing bad to say about it, I feel. I guess it could get too much into the extreme of, okay, well, I don't have to do anything. I don't need to. All I just need to do is sit on the couch and love myself or whatever, and I don't need to really be motivated anymore. But that's not really what I'm talking about either. This doesn't, I don't think, run contrary to goals and motivation and action and doing either. So yeah, I haven't found that either. And in fact, it helps clear out some things that are in the way of, wise effort, I would say too. So yeah.
Yeah, I think procrastination and lack of motivation is also why bother? I'm just going to be a loser and not going to work. And you have that negative thinking, those deep seated beliefs, which are a lack of self love, right? So to me, being a Course in Miracles person, it's either fear or love ruling our that's our issue, those two things. So it's either a lack of love or a call to love.
I really love this dichotomy. It makes so much sense because if you really boil down all the emotions too, it comes down to a root of like love or fear, right? Love, yeah. So, and what's the old Buddhist saying that um, hatred can never be overcome by hatred. Only by non-hatred can it be overcome. This is eternal, an ancient law, and it really it makes a lot of sense. And I love this framing too. It's either love or a cry for love. Can really put that perception to a lot of good use, and it will go really far. And it has for me too. So, and then I love this one too about aligning with goodness and mighty forces will come to your aid. I really love that as well. So, speaking to people, and you mentioned you have a retreat coming up, and it's on Insight Time. People can see it on Insight Timer and your website too. Might as well just talk about that for people who want to go deeper in this and not just go beyond just guided meditation. You mentioned how your app and you have guided meditations too, and it's great. I love Insight Timer as well. But for those that want to go deeper, maybe some other people have done online retreats, but you have a in real life
Yeah.
retreat, right? And talk about that and some advantages of that over just doing guided meditations and things like
Well,
that.
I've done maybe 5 retreats now, and they've all been international locations that are particularly relaxing in nature. And I let Mother Nature do half the work, honestly, by just removing yourself out of your usual routine and social context and the people you have to face every day and going to another part of the planet right away is healing. Then, you have this beautiful tropical jungle in Costa Rica with different flowers and different animals, and your senses are enlivened. So you're activating the whole present moment mindfulness and curiosity. Then, on top of that, you are getting training with different meditations. And we have the best Costa Rican sound healer in the country coming. It's a 2-hour experience. It's very shamanic and it's incredible. So there access to all these new people, new experiences. We're going to do a cacao ceremony. We have a full moon. Um, and we have art. This is the new thing. We always had a couple art classes, but this time we're doing every single day a very deep dive into an art experience where you express your creativity. Because I realized when I wrote the book that we need a hobby. Everybody needs to create something. Creating is our natural part of being human. And since we're little kids, we stopped doing that. So even like painting a rock is creative and it unleashes something inside of you. So we're going to we have an art coach coming, and she in herself is the most incredibly creative, amazing artist. She can't stop it. She's like constantly creating. Awesome person. So she's going to be there. You get to hang out with her, and that in itself is going to raise your vibration. And then every morning I'll be doing a mindful, very slow beginner, like a yin yoga, but we're going to focus on a different chakra every day. And we're going to do healing circles and work on our energetic body to cleanse our aura of all that negativity and crap from the city. And we're going to be under waterfalls and hot tubs, and it's going to be amazing. Anyway,
Well, it sounds, I mean, go ahead.
you do come back a
Oh,
different person.
well, yeah. I mean, just think about the benefits of meditation. This is like bad terminology, but meditation on, I mean, a vacation on steroids, right? So you've got all this
Yeah.
extra stuff. So it's just it sounds like it will take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. And the art I found too, I used to do a little bit of it, but it's such a good way to channel emotions into something amazing in a way too,
Yeah,
right?
you
And there's
don't
so many
realize
different art
that
forms. Yeah.
it brings out things in your subconscious that you can't get any other way. Like, you go to an art gallery and all that stuff on the wall is somebody's soul talking to you. So what's your soul gonna say? Even with a few watercolors, you don't know. I mean, it gets very emotional, and it also brings a lot of joy, and we need more joy in our life, you know. So also there's like 3 meals a day of gourmet vegan chef cooking for us, and I really spoil people. They get these luxury cabins. Believe me, this is the opposite to going to work with a monk. But
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, why? I mean, if you're going to go on vacation, I think this is way better than just a regular vacation. So you're actually doing more than just yeah, just getting away. You're actually
well,
getting away
most
for a
people come
purpose and a
back.
reason.
Right, they come back from vacation usually bloated, overweight, hungover. They regret half of it, and it was expensive, and they don't feel good. They almost need a vacation after that vacation.
You're
So this
right.
is
Yeah.
they're gonna come back feeling fantastic. You know, a week of no alcohol, really good night's sleep, being in nature, meeting great people, and it's over New Year's. New Year's Eve, we have a really fun night planned.
Well, and that's way more wholesome and helpful than a lot of other things people could be doing on New Year's Eve, I'd imagine. You know,
Yeah.
nothing that there's totally anything horribly wrong with that, but this is just even so much more better. In Costa Rica too, you know, I haven't been to Costa Rica yet, but there's some really a lot of spiritual things there and people there, and there's one community in particular I would love to kind of visit. Yeah, it just seems like an amazing place. So
It
so
is a
everybody, you'll see the information in the show notes for that. So is there? I'm trying to think. Is there's anything we left out that you would like to talk about? And yeah, and then tell other people what you have going on, like maybe where they can get your books, how they can get your app.
well, on
You mentioned Insight Timer, yeah. Mhm.
Insight Timer, I have 2 courses up that are very helpful, and the most popular one is the self-love course that people love to do. There's a even it's in the book. It's kind of I based the book actually. I did the course first and then based the book on that. And we have a self-love test that you can take. And that's in the book, and it's also in the course on Insight Timer. And a lot of people go back and do it after every few months to see how they've kind of, you know, improved a little bit in that area. Not that it's all about acceptance and loving yourself the way you are, but it's like, you know, well, how is my self love meter these days, you know? So that's kind of good. I would love people to try the course. And then I have a sleep course because, as I said, I used to teach insomniacs, and I have this fantastic sleep course as well, and sleep meditations on Insight Timer, because sleep has become such a well, insomnia is like an epidemic now because of the world the way it is. And I just think all my meditations, I do a lot of classics, and then I've also written some just for that people have asked me to write, like one for self forgiveness that includes Ho'oponopono, and I've written some for abundance to break those money barriers that we have, mental barriers about money, you know. And so I like those sort of, you know, meditations as well. I've been doing Insight Timer since 2016. I've been a teacher on there. And my sleep ones, I think, are probably the most popular.
Well, very cool. Yeah, you know, this you mentioned acceptance and radical acceptance. I love this mantra for radical acceptance. It really helped me too. Is it's okay. So the only exception is abuse. Abuse is never okay. Other than that, It's okay, and it's okay not to be okay, right? It's a great one. And then part two of that is eventually you take as long as you need, but then part two will be making those decisions that I've been putting off making. So take as long as I need, and then it's okay to
It's
whatever's
lighten
going
up.
on. Yeah.
Lighten up on yourself.
Oh,
That's why
that's yeah.
I call it the Lighten Up retreat, because we're so hard on ourselves. So it's like lighten the F up already.
And I love the that because there's the word light in it too, which is
Yeah.
so beneficial, right? Like it's bright, it's illuminating. So seeing things we don't see while at the same time being kind to ourselves. So it's a great, I love that phrase. Thanks for that.
Well, it's a namaste word. It's see the light,
Yeah. Like the
light
light in me honors the light in you, sees the light in you. Beautiful. All right. Well, did you name drop your website too, or?
website is lightenupreetreat.com,
Okay.
and they can just Google Kathryn Remati anywhere.
And that's Remati.
M
So,
for man.
Kathryn, thanks again so much for joining me. And may all beings everywhere come to know their highest, most balanced, optimal peace within, without, and for all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere realize awakening and be free. Bye, guys.
Thank you.